For decades, students all across the world have been stumped by one question. What are randomized block experiments? Through days of research, I have figured out this puzzle. In this video, I will explain what a randomized block experiment is and give plenty of examples to use so you can understand what this concept really means. So to understand this concept, you first need to know what a block is. A block is the grouping of similar characteristics in your experiment. For example, you have age, gender, and weather. All of these are considered nuisance variables. Nuisance variables are pretty bad in the fact that they skew your data at the end of your experiment, because nuisance variables are variables that you're not trying to measure, but they heavily affect what you're trying to measure. So therefore, we use a block to control the easily identified nuisance variables, and then use the randomized part of the randomized experiment to control the smaller nuisance variables. An example would be, let's say you're a scientist and you've created 4 new pills for a certain virus and you want to test them out. However, you're worried that gender and age might play a factor into your data. Therefore, you split the groups up into male and female, and then split those groups up into different age intervals. And this takes care of the nuisance variables for gender and age. And as you could tell, pill 4, only one of them worked for male for 60 plus. If we did not block, we could not tell that this pill was not effective for 60 plus. But since we did use this randomized block experiment, we have a successful experiment and we can come to accurate conclusions. Now here's an example if we didn't use a randomized block experiment. We basically have 4 groups, all men and women of all ages, and basically all we have is just a clump of data that we can't come to really any conclusions with, unlike with our randomized block experiments. So therefore, it's more smarter to use a randomized block experiment. Now for a real life application, I'm going to use an engineering example. Let's say you're building a rocket and you want to test 4 new materials, but you're worried that the seasons might play a factor into it. Therefore, you block out the seasons by creating 4 different groups for each season, and then randomly assign the material to a rocket. This creates a fair experiment and eliminates all the nuisance variables. And as you can see, cold weather, titanium is a clear winner, and warm weather, you would want to use aluminum. If we did not block, we couldn't tell that each material behaves differently in each season. So if we did not block, this would create a lot of bad consequences, like possibly life, a lot of money for the company, and even your job. So I hope you understand how important understanding a randomized block experiment is, because most experiments fail because you fail to realize the nuisance variables when you start your experiment. In conclusion, I hope this video helped you better understand what a randomized block experiment is and why it is so important. Without randomized block experiments, we would have a hard time coming to conclusions from our data. Therefore, in order to become great engineers or great at whatever you want to be, we need to make sure that we master the art of randomized block experiments.